Growing controversy today for one of the biggest real estate developers in the nation. Stephen Ross, owner of the Miami Dolphins and chairman of related companies, is facing backlash after announcing a fundraiser for President Trump in the Hamptons. The price of admission, a cool $250,000. Now there are growing online calls to boycott two brands his company owns, Equinox and Soul Cycle. We've got editor-in-chief Andy Serwer back with us. And Andy, you recently spoke to Stephen Ross about his support for Trump. What did he have to say?
Yeah, I talked to him about 6 weeks ago before this controversy broke, obviously. And it's not surprising that Steve Ross would know Donald Trump because they're both New York City developers. Stephen Ross developed Hudson Yards, that giant real estate project on the west side of Manhattan. And so I talked to him a little bit about what he thinks of President Trump. Here's what he had to say. I'd like to hear your thoughts on how you feel President Trump is handling the economy, particularly when it comes to, say, tariffs and tax policy and tax changes to the tax code.
Well, I mean, no matter what, there's some unintended consequences, from the tax code. Certainly, it's boosted the economy. No one could say the economy has never been any stronger than it is today, from that perspective. In terms of, Trump and, there's a good and bad, obviously, with anything, The trade policies, I think we need him as a strong leader, what he's done with China and taken on China. Somebody had to do it, and he was probably the only person that would take them on the way they are, and I think that's important for the future of the United States, from that perspective. And so, I mean, some of the things, and some of how you look at America, I mean, there's a lot of problems with that, But I think overall, if you look and you see what's the options are on the far left, I think in the long term, that is not good for America, And I think that today people are happy. A lot of people have problems with Trump. We have a divided country like we've never had before. Politics has really changed, a lot. I'm optimistic, because this America, we're going to find, the right direction, and we'll continue that.
Right, maybe some more centrist candidates?
Well, yes, I think we need, Trump is not a crazy conservative. I mean, Trump is a centrist from that standpoint. He has a different style than most people are used to, but he is strong and he is doing things. And
did you know him when he was a real estate guy here in New York?
Yeah, I've known Donald for a long time.
Right, what was your first impression when you got to know him?
He's different. But, he's been successful. I like him.
I kind of got the feeling that Steve Ross was sort of struggling a little bit because you could see that he has some mixed feelings about Donald Trump. Another takeaway was when he called him a centrist. Some people may or may not agree with that. Mm-hmm. And also, when I talked to him about the Miami Dolphins, which he owns, you guys mentioned, he said that he supported the players in the kneeling controversy. So there's a lot of...
In opposition with
Trump. So, it's interesting. I have a feeling that Steve Ross never saw this controversy coming.
Yeah.
And, just thought he'd have a nice little party in the Hamptons and no one would take any notice of it. Well, what happened is that it kind of blew up. People didn't realize that he owned those two brands. And then also, the president, always in the news, but with the shootings, even maybe more so. So, I think that people at these companies may be sort of scrambling and struggling to, explain to their customers the ownership and how it works. And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
They're caught right in the middle, both Soul Cycle and Equinox.
They are. I mean, and let's face it, a lot of the customers of Soul Cycle and Equinox are not on the same page as President Trump, right? It's sort of a different constituency. And so, there has been talk, Brian, of those companies being spun out in terms of an IPO. This might accelerate that process. But anyway, watching how this is resolved is just another little chapter in American business and Donald Trump, isn't it?
Politics weaves its way into a whole bunch of different things.